Welcome to Toffee TV. It is your comments. You have been kind enough to leave your comments on YouTube on my match reaction, Baz's match reaction, and also the player ratings after the 2-2 draw. Let's get into it. Callum96 says it was pretty poor by us, but Unsworth has got us scoring goals, and you could see he went for it with the substitutions, so I'm not overly disappointed, but we ideally need some wins. Spot on, Callum. He did, and bringing Sandro on as well was an interesting sub instead of Wayne Rooney. Obviously brought Dominic Calvert-Lewin on the second half as well. So yeah, we need wins. Wins are huge. You get like 3 wins, and next minute you know, if Everton were to win the next 3 games, I know it's a huge if, but if they were to win the next 3 games, suddenly you find yourself top half and looking at different things, and the pressure is off, and you're not worried as much going into games, and everything's completely different. That's what sort of happened last December when we started winning a couple of games, and next minute we were looking up rather than looking down, and you go into games thinking, oh, if we win this, we could go 9th and 8th and 7th, and it was completely different. So yeah, a few more wins by whatever means possible. Luke Phillips says, how come none will expect a manager like Dyche, but yet we celebrate buying players from teams below us? Our record signings is from a relegation battling team. I think we need to be realistic about the position we're in. I do agree. I agree with you. I'm really surprised, Luke, that Dyche isn't more at the forefront when it comes to bringing a manager in. You know, all the eggs seem to be in one basket at the moment with Marco Silva. And listen, what has he done? He was with Hull when they got relegated. I'm not saying he was part of that, and he's with Watford, who are only, have only won 2 or 3 more games than we have. So you're absolutely right. At this period, it's really hard for us to attract a real top manager. We can offer them money, but that only gets you so far. You need everything else that goes with it. So I'm really surprised Dyche isn't more in Everton's thinking. Maybe someone like an Eddie Howe. Is that someone else who's in the thinking? Maybe we need to take, a couple of small steps before we take the big step. Get ourselves, solidly in Europe for a couple of years before we can attract the big names. And maybe someone like Sean Dyche could do that. Maybe that's where Everton will have to go next if things keep going the way they are. Mike Flynn says Liverpool will be a nightmare. I don't want to think about it. None of us do. Clean sheets are the priority, so Morgan and Williams can't play. Bainesy's getting on and Kenny's not there yet. Why play Lookman and Lennon from the off against an improving bottom place Palace? A defensive 4-4-2 was needed for the first 45 minutes. Perhaps Unzi felt we could surprise them. If he did, he showed his lack of experience at the level. Getting the squad to play as a team will require a very strong personality, and he will have to go back to basic defending and some new blood. Unzi's not the man to sort the problem out. Over to the board. I agree with you on some points, disagree on others. I think the team was quite balanced. One centre forward, Lennon wide, Lookman wide, Sneijderlin, Sigurdsson and Garner should have been able to cope in midfield. I just think our back four's all over the place at the moment. I think there's not much pace in it, which is a major problem. I thought Lennon defensively was brilliant on Saturday. Less so Lookman, who's more of an attack and play, doesn't really want to do that side of the games, and maybe physically can't do the side of the game. But I think the 3 in the middle should have been able to cope going forwards and backwards. Defensively, would that really? I mean, you've got to be set up defensively. You've got to have a shape. But if we'd been set up defensively, wouldn't that have allowed Palace to just come on? I think it's finding the balance. And I think the big problem at the moment is the defence just aren't doing the basic things. You look at all the mistakes from the weekend, they're all things that, when you're playing well and when you're organised, they're just second nature. Putting your foot through the ball and players being switched on, and there is an experience there. Kenny, for the first goal, not being awake to the situation. He's got one job there, and that's to be switched on to the player behind him, and he isn't. So there's a real mix of inexperience and confidence, and players that just aren't good enough, you know. And you're right, it is over to the board now to get that sorted. Pete Millington says Sneijder needs injection to play and only lasts 45 minutes. Meanwhile, Binghamy and Vlasic are in the under 23s at Prenton Park. Unsworth's just another shit standing. Again, you know, I struggle with why he brought Sneijder back, but again, maybe he thought the experience of him and Garner playing in midfield is what we needed. Sneijder, for me, there's just something not right, whether it's his fitness or his attitude. I struggle with the Vlasic stuff. I think he did okay, but I think for his sake, I think people are putting real false expectation onto him. I really don't think he was really sort of ripping it up before he went out the side. Yes, maybe he should be on the bench, but I just think at the moment we need players in the team that are going to be, you know, that are used to the situation, or certainly can be relied upon. I think Vlasic is a player that maybe Unsworth just doesn't know enough about. Benny, you know, again, maybe Unsworth, he'll know him better than anyone. Maybe he just thought it was a wrong game for him. Maybe it was time to bring Sneijder in. Listen, Unsworth is a stand-in, that's what he is. They're the same players though. You can't expect miracles out of them. I think he's getting more out of some of them than he did out of than Ronald Koeman did. But then he's rubbing up other people. You know, for every Vlasic not playing, you've got someone like Lennon in who is adding something. You know, Nias. You know, Unsworth seems to be getting more out of him than Koeman did. So it's hard, isn't it? It's really hard. Unsworth's learning on the job. Is he the right man? Maybe not. But I you know, he certainly seems to be picking up more points, and we look a bit more organised, I think, anyway. I mean, still not great, but I think we look a little bit more organised than we did under Koeman. Niall Peckham says, please stop saying Davis never stops running. He runs into defenders and gives the ball away. He's been shit all season and needs benching. But he was on the bench. Where is Vlasic and why are we so bad? Well, number one, Davis was on the bench in this game, if I remember rightly. He came on at half time and he was much better than Sneijder. But you're right, Davies needs to calm down. Last season when he came into the side, he wasn't like what he's been this season. He was a lot calmer, real cool head in possession. And this season he's just erratic. Now maybe that's second season syndrome, or whether it's because of everything that's going on. You know, he's an Evertonian. But for me, he's doing too much. Maybe his role in the team needs to be identified more. But he is erratic. I agree on that. You know, on Saturday I thought some of the fouls he was giving away were silly, and you know, and every time you think, oh my god, is he going to overstep and get another yellow card? But he was on the bench, so you know, let's not go overboard. He hasn't played every game under Unsworth. Again, Vlasic, apparently in this game, in the under 23s game, he was awful. But maybe that's, you know, because he's having to step down. I don't know. But again, I don't know what Vlasic would add to this side. He wouldn't have pace because he's not fast. And where would you play him? Would you play him instead of Sigurdsson? You know, because really I think, or would he? You know, he could have played instead of Luckman. But then, are you losing pace there? So I don't know. I think Vlasic's time will come. I just think he's a young lad. He's not only been at the club, 3 months or whatever it is. Let's not stop hyping him up and thinking, when he does come in, because what'll happen is he'll get games and he won't be brilliant, and everyone will go, oh, fucking hell. And we're going over the top about players who need time. He's had good little cameos in games, he has, but only in like 20-minute spells. So let's not go overboard. And why are we so bad? Because we are. Paul Smith says, By the way, I don't pick faults for the fun of it. I actually see them. Somebody I know has been pointing out a fault of Pickford's for weeks and today he done it again. Saying that on social media becomes a crime, even though it blatantly happened, and nobody learns anything, especially yourselves who are talking to 20,000 fans who refuse to see the fault in anyone you decide to like until it's going on for ages. Football waits for nobody these days. Two smart fellas like yourself know. Was there another part to this message, Paul? I don't know. Joe, did you miss the other part of this? I don't know what the fault is, because it only seems like I've got half the comments. So I don't know what the fault is. So I don't know. Listen. Is this Pickford is not 100% perfect goalkeeper. There is only a handful who are, and they're world class. Again, we're building someone up, and then when they're not brilliant, knocking them down. Pickford is a young lad. This is his second season in the Premier League. He won't be brilliant all the time. He has one of his faults, and maybe this is what you're talking about, is that I think he kicks the ball away sometimes too quickly without thinking about where he's putting it, and sometimes he doesn't get it right and it comes back. Saves wise, both goals maybe he can be questioned. We've looked at it in the final word. The first goal, he makes a save, the lad's there to tap it in, but he doesn't push it back into it. He pushes it wide and there's a lad there. The second one, does Jagielka stop him from getting it and take his eye off? And does he take his eye off the ball? I don't know, but if we're starting to pick faults in Pickford's game, then I think we're in real trouble. We're over-analysing every single player. You know, he's not perfect, because he's not going to be perfect. He's going to be affected the same as every other player. Are we looking at unrealistic standards here for our players? Yes, we paid £30 million, but that doesn't matter. You pay that sometimes for a player because you think you're going to have them for a long time, or that's the asking price. But this is his second season in the Premier League. Remember that. I think that gets lost on people. He isn't going to be perfect. Neville Southall wasn't perfect. David De Gea wasn't perfect when he signed for Man United. That's what happens. You know, I think we build players up too early now and then just like knock them down when they have a couple of poor games. You know, I think, you know, is he poor every game? No. Does he make the odd mistake? Yes. Does he make the same mistakes all the time? No. You know, I think that's been the big problem with some other people, is you see the same mistake over and over and over again. And we will criticise players, of course we will. But you've got to see or look at why they've done certain things. If it's a young player, it's normally down to inexperience. And you hope the coaches, you know, get rid of that if they've got good coaches. I don't know. I think sometimes we have unrealistic expectations. Gordon Hutchinson says, being classed along with Palace as the worst two teams conceding goals in the Premier League so far is fucking shit, I would imagine. A goal down in less than a minute speaks volumes. What has happened to the fortress we used to be? I'm gutted and fuming. Unfortunately, I think that this we've got two defenders in the team that were part of the Moyes era. That's a big problem, age-wise. We've got a young lad playing right back who's only played a handful of games, and a centre-back that last season was part of a system. This season looks all over the place, and I think that's the problem. That's the problem. They don't look like they've been coached. They don't look like they've been worked with. And it's almost like three different parts, isn't it? It's like Moyes era, Koeman, Unsworth. So what we need is a new centre half and a new left back. We need Seamus to come back, and we need a manager to work with them. And that's what we need. You know, you can sit here and say, oh, well, he'll get better and he'll get better because of a new manager. No, we need a new left-sided centre-back and we need a new left-back. That's what we need, 100%. And the sooner the better. January, please. Mr. YouTuber 011 says, yeah, we stunk the place out, but they were going down like flies in my opinion. They deserve to be bottom of the league. Nias is carrying the side. He makes things happen. He's the only one who gives a toss. Break the bank and get an Italian boss because we can't defend. Amen. Well, what Italian boss? Ancelotti? I think that ship sailed. And we can't defend. Nias, yeah, he seems to be carrying the team at the moment. We just need better players. That's a big thing, isn't it? Better players, and as I said before, better defenders. Put defenders with pace, younger, you know, players around the 26, 27 mark, you know, who've already come through their spell, who are just about to hit the peak. They're the ones who cost the most money, but they're the ones we need, you know, who are ready to come in. They're the players we need. Wayne Wandar says, Keane has been stinking out for some time. Gets the benefit out because he's new and young. Truth is, he's been just as bad as Williams. Jags is our best defender at the moment, and he's 105. I wouldn't agree. Listen, Jags was just as bad as Williams. Some of the things he did when he came over I think sliding for the second goal was ridiculous, and the one in the second half where Keane's got it and Jags comes over and leaves Benteke behind him. I think Keane has had problems. He's had this injury, hasn't he, as well? Or whatever, the infection or whatever it was. Again, Keane, barely in a system, good player. Just, again, he's not a bad player, he just needs to be better. He's not a brilliant player, but part of a setup where everyone knows what they're doing will become a better player. Playing alongside, yeah, I said it in the summer, we should have got Harry Maguire. We really should have. 17 million quid, a left-sided centre-back. Him and Keane could have got a little partnership going that could have lasted for, 4 or 5 years maybe. I think that defence needs to just be ripped apart, as I've already said. James Griffith says, we are in shit street, so if the board have identified a man they want as manager, stop pissing about and pay whatever it costs to get him, because if things carry on as is, we are doomed to relegation dogfight. I don't think we have got the players to deal with that. Yeah, it's finally balanced. Manager needs to come in, get some plays in January. There's a lot of other poor sides around us, and if we can get on a little run and get a little bit of space between us and them, it makes it much different. But they'll be saying the same thing. West Brom have just sacked Pulis. They'll be saying the same thing. Get a new man in, get them playing, get a little bit of room between them. Because West Brom were what? Well, they were 8th for a long time last season. I think they finished 9th or 10th. But yeah, it's finally balanced, and what we need is a manager, and hopefully to be identifying some new players. Mark Shepherd says, we were so deep in the first half, Lookman and Lennon tucked in next to midfield. We sat back, didn't press, and was more like a 4-5-1, inviting so much pressure. Second half we pressed better, but didn't have enough pressing out wide. Sigurdsson was better, Kenny handled Zaha, and Nias was superb again. Manager ASAP to give us an attacking system. Again, I think that comes from the back. If you've got pace at the back, you can get higher up the pitch. We also had more players stretching them second half. Dominic Calvert-Lewin on instead of Lookman. I think that helped us to get forward, helped us to keep the ball in a lot higher up the pitch, which helped. But again, it's identifying the right players. 1 minute someone like Lookman's playing well, and the next minute he doesn't play well. It's about identifying who can do what job and give them a run in the team, and that's the main thing. Mr. Dominic says Joey Barton is right about Unsworth, not managerial material. Stop talking about Joey Barton. He's an absolute dickhead, right? He's a dickhead. He's obviously got personal problem with Unsworth and uses other things to talk about him. He is a dickhead. Yes, Unzi, we understand that you're proud to be in charge, but you are not up to the task. Just like Alan Stubbs and David Weir. Stubbs was out of his depth at Rotherham, and how long did Weir last at Sheffield United? As Brian Clough once said, some of these ex-players seem to think they're putting a tie on, and it makes them a good manager. What? Well, hang on, whoa, hang on. Did David Unsworth give himself the job? No, the board put him in charge because of what he did and is doing with the under-23s, right? So Unsworth's in charge and sending teams out, and I think we've looked better with Unsworth than we did with Ron Koeman with all his experience. So I think we've looked better with Unsworth, but he didn't put himself in charge. The board put him in charge, and they've left him in charge because they haven't been able to get a manager in charge. So let's not start slagging off David Unsworth, right? Because what's the point? He isn't our manager. He is a caretaker manager, right? He makes decisions, rightly or whether they're right or wrong. He makes the decisions, right? So, he did not make himself the manager, though. He had his job. He was doing his job. He probably isn't ready. Probably needs to go away and get more experience of different kinds of things. But he didn't put himself in charge, right? And Joey Barton having a go at him doesn't help, because Joey Barton's a dickhead, right? An absolute dickhead. So can we just get away from that kind of comment, because it's pathetic. Sick of seeing people going on about Unsworth. Oh, he patched the badge and he thinks he's one of us. Well, he is one of us, and he patched the badge because he is an Evertonian, right? But he doesn't go on the pitch and go out there and play with the pride. He tries to put a team together to play on the pitch, right? If he's up to it, that's a different argument. But let's not start getting all like personal with him and getting in. It totally annoys me. And to actually side with Joey Barton, who didn't get into him about being a manager, made personal comments about him. Pathetic. There you go. On that, they were your comments. Thanks as ever for getting in touch with us. Leave your comments after every game on YouTube, and Joe will pick the best ones out, or will try to anyway. And if they're one of two, Joe, make sure you pick the best, 1 and 2. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, make sure you subscribe, click the bell for alerts, and if you want more videos, join us on Patreon. See you later.